Welcome back, everyone. Today is another special day. Not only do we all get to stay inside and be lazy and everything, me personally, I've been lazy a lot. And on days like this, I usually take out my Nintendo Switch and start playing some games and stuff, right? But I started reminiscing back on the Nintendo Wii, which made me kind of think about the Nintendo Wii U. And this is a weird long segue into us talking about the Nintendo Wii U and how it holds up in 2020. Now, ultimately, the Wii U is a very, very strange console because in one way, and I think it was a pretty important console in Nintendo's whole entire lineup when you consider the things that came out after it and everything. But at that time, I think it was underappreciative. And honestly, I think it was kind of ahead of its time, to be honest, because it brought a lot to the table, kind of, but it also didn't seem like it did. I think their marketing, it wasn't just me. I mean, I read a lot about this, and basically the number one thing about this console was a lack of marketing, because a lot of people didn't think that it was like a Wii successor. They didn't even know it was like a dedicated console. They thought that the screen thing was actually the main console, where it really wasn't. It was like a dedicated console that you played just like the Wii, but it was really hard to explain. But also at the same time, you have to understand that if we didn't get the Nintendo Wii U, we probably would have never gotten the Nintendo Switch, and the Switch is one of my favorite consoles ever. It's an extremely great console, and what's really, really cool is that recently I've been looking at a lot of comparisons in terms of graphics between the Wii U and the Switch and vice versa, and even the Wii U and the Wii, and there was a humongous gap. There was huge improvements in the graphics, in my opinion, from going from the Nintendo Wii to the Nintendo Wii U. But going from the Wii U to the Switch, there's definitely some improvements going for the Switch, but the graphics for the most part are kind of the same. I mean, there's still not a lot of overlap in terms of the games. There's only like a few games that are overlapped with the Switch and the Wii U. I think Zelda Breath of the Wild, I think, was one of them. But at the end of the day, the Wii U was a very, very strange thing at the end of the day. Now, on the Nintendo Wii U, the actual console, looking around that specific body of the thing you plug into the TV, on the front, it pretty much looks just like the Nintendo Wii, except for some reason you couldn't necessarily stand it upright because it was like rounded on each side, so you kind of had to lay it down, which wasn't that big of a deal. You had that disc slot, and then you had an SD card slot and two USB ports, which is really, really cool. And I'm actually really happy they put that two USB ports on the front. And on the back, really cool thing, not only did you have that regular standard AV connection that you could put in the Wii U, but you also had that AC adapter, but also that HDMI cord, which this was the first time we saw an HDMI cord on a Nintendo console. Before with Wii, we had to use those standard pins and it was just a mess. I had to get like a AV connector to an HDMI port connector, which was just, I hated doing that. It was, I don't know if it decreased the quality, but it didn't really look as good. And it was just like one extra step. And the Wii definitely felt outdated for that. And this console actually had that HDMI port. And this is actually something I wish the Nintendo Wii, and this is something that I wish the Nintendo Switch Lite actually had. I wish we could blast it on a TV. I understand that's what the regular Switch is for, but if we had an HDMI port on the Switch Lite, that would be awesome. I'm sure somebody can hard mod a HDMI port on that, who knows. But you also had two USB ports on that console as well. But on the actual handheld version of the Wii U, which, usually comes standard with every single Wii U, it's a little bit different. So on the front of that specific console, you had a 6.2-inch display, and you had those two joysticks and the D-pad on the left and then the A, B, X, Y on the right and the start select. And honestly, this console didn't really even look that good. It looked really, really outdated since the first time it came out. And to be honest, when we had things like the 3DS that I think came out around this time, even the 3DS XL, but also like the DS Lite, those consoles felt really good and they felt pretty premium. This thing kind of felt too plasticky. It just felt like a toy. And I think that's another reason why this thing probably didn't sell that well. It just felt really, really cheap. And I don't think a lot of people wanted to carry a console like this around with them and have it feel really, really cheap, even though it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was supposed to be a dedicated at-home console, but because Nintendo's marketing was so weird, people would look at something like a Wii U, and then people would look at something like a PS Vita, and they'd be like, the PS Vita looks so much cooler and it's so much smaller, I can put it on my book bag, take it to go. But even the Wii U wasn't even supposed to be like that, but that's how they kind of interpreted it, and that's one of the biggest problems for the Wii U for sure. So ultimately, I'll tell you this, it's really cool that the Wii U was, a both console that you can kind of carry with you at your home and kind of sit on the couch and play it there for some reason if you wanted to, and also a dedicated console. But I think the Wii U was better off as a dedicated console on your TV rather than vice versa, to be honest. But at the end of the day, not a humongous deal. It wasn't too crazy, but it is something to kind of consider. So especially when we look at things like the Nintendo Switch now, there's so many things that the Nintendo Wii U brought that eventually got ported over to the Switch. Really, the whole entire design, it really is so similar. When I look at a Switch Lite, there's so many similarities, which is crazy. Now, a really cool thing about the Wii U is that this was kind of the first console that we got that was able to display 1080p video or 1080p games, which is really cool. And like I stated before, the game quality going from the original Wii to the Wii U was actually pretty high, and I never even really noticed this. Before with my Wii, I always kind of thought they were kind of the same, just because I didn't really know too much about the Wii U, even though I've owned one for many years now. But it's still a really cool thing that they increase the quality like that, which is super impressive. And I'm curious to see how these next generation of consoles are going to come with the Switch 2, the Xbox Series X, and the PS5. I'm wondering how these are going to be brought up in terms of the gameplay and everything, which should be interesting. Now, a really cool thing about the Nintendo Wii U, and why it's actually really impressive in 2020, more so than just the dedicated console or the console you can take with you in places at your home, it's actually the game selection, and that's almost like a given. But the thing about the Nintendo Wii U, not only can play Nintendo Wii U games, so like the Zelda Breath of the Wild, and actually it was Breath of the Wild, not Breath of the Wind, I'm such an idiot, Assassin's Creed, all those different things. We also have backwards compatibility to a bunch of Nintendo Wii games as well, and the Nintendo Wii is, I think, the best-selling console of all time. It made Nintendo a bunch of money, and that was pretty much their streamlined thing of what they were going to replicate every single other console as, and the Wii brought so many games forward, rightfully so. That console was just a league of its own, so you have that capability of playing those games on the Nintendo Wii U as well, which is really awesome. So not only do you get the Super Mario Galaxies, Super Marios, you get all those Smash Brothers, the Mario Karts. You have so many different dedicated games for this console that it's really awesome. And honestly, like I've stated before, it's just crazy that you have the capability for doing something like this. Now, as far as I know, there's a few mods that you can do on this, but it's nothing that, maybe it's kind of similar to the Nintendo Wii, but with the Wii, I remember that console, you can homebrew that thing up like crazy. This was definitely, without a doubt, one of the best things for sure about the original Nintendo Wii, and now with the Wii U, I'm sure there's some mods out for it. There's mods for the Switch, so I'm sure there's some things you can do with the Wii U that can also, help out in that sense too. So not only do we have crazy game selection, not only do we have all those different things, but as of right now in 2020, first of all, when it came out, the basic set of this thing was $300, but the deluxe set of this thing when it first came out was about $350. And shout out to Nintendo.fandom.com, as I usually say. They helped out a lot with this video in terms of the information they put on their website. The thing about the Nintendo Wii U, though, is that it sold about 13.56 million consoles versus the Nintendo Wii, which sold over 100 million consoles, which is insane. So look, they sold about a tenth of the consoles on the Nintendo Wii U than on the Nintendo Wii, which is insane. And that just goes to show how great the Nintendo Wii lineup was, and how the Wii U was thought to be better than it, but it really wasn't in a way. But also at the same time, if it was either between having a Nintendo Wii U or a Nintendo Wii in 2020, I would 100% pick a Nintendo Wii U, just because of the backwards compatibility and all that stuff. So it's very weird how that kind of comes out, but for sure, at the end of the day, the Nintendo Wii U, I think, brought a lot to the table in a way, and really did kind of port over everything that we kind of liked on it, and then Nintendo kind of made the Nintendo Switch, which is a great console at the end of the day. And as I was saying with the price, this thing does not cost that $350 or $300 anymore. This thing costs about, I've seen a lot of these go from anywhere from $50, sometimes to $100, but that's if it has like games and everything. Usually the median price for this thing is like $60, bro, which honestly at the end of the day is something I would highly recommend all of you guys to consider buying. If you don't want to spend, the couple $100 on a Switch Lite or on a Switch, dude, the Nintendo Wii U is not a bad console. And I would even say, even if you don't want to buy it with the screen or the dedicated gaming portable console thing, you don't have to. You can just buy the Nintendo Wii, get the controller for it, and be set. All the portable console is just taking it literally portably. You're not going to bring it in a car with you and take it, unless you want to take the whole entire console with you, then that's different. But that's still a really cool thing that you have the capability of doing that. And for such an affordable cost, especially when all these consoles are costing hundreds and hundreds of dollars, it's really refreshing to see a console with pretty great graphics, 1080p support, which is okay, I guess, in 2020, a humongous game selection and super cheap games, and the possibility of having it homebrewed. Like, it really doesn't come that far. Like, it's really not that bad of a console at all if you really think about it. So back in the day in 2012 when it was announced and everything, it probably was not the best choice for a lot of people, but now that prices have gone down and this console, really kind of shows what it kind of brought at that time, and looking at consoles now, I still think it's a pretty decent pickup in 2020. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any other questions or comments or anything, I combine questions and comments with comments or whatever, let me know in the comments section below. Hit that like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those things are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.